Hey y'all, today I'm going to discuss a very important herb that is probably all around you, and I'm always amazed how few people know to use it because at one point it was a very important part of our nation's economy and especially for medicine. It is pine. I went out today and I got some various types of pine. Got some loblolly here and some longleaf. My white pine still isn't showing any spring growth, so I didn't bother with that. Turpentine is a very useful medicine. You've probably heard of that, but I'm going to tell you other ways you can use pine. First of all, the needles. All right, let's talk about pine needles. You can make a tea of pine needles. It's very good for sore throats. It's very good for coughs. It's antiseptic, it's astringent, and it's expectorant. Get some mucus up out of your lungs. This is really important to know. For instance, if you're getting a really bad sore throat, like strep throat, if that tissue becomes boggy, meaning it becomes so inflamed that it really won't go back down, you can die from that. So, this is medicine that can actually save your life, and in more ways than one, believe it or not. All right, so you can make a tea of the pine needles. You can make a tincture of the pine needles. One thing I did last year, about this time actually, when COVID was really going around, everybody was freaking out, and I knew we were going to be quarantined for a little bit. I went out and I picked a big old bag full of the fresh spring needles. See these are coming up from the middle here. They're shorter. These are the ones you want to use. Okay. I boiled those in about a gallon of water until I got a nice strong tea. Strained them out. Mixed in about 10 pounds of sugar. Dissolved that. Added that to about 4 gallons of cold water to cool it down, and put some bread yeast in there. I could have used wine yeast or beer yeast. I made a pine wine. Now, why did I do that? You might ask. Well, for one thing, the only cost was the sugar and the yeast. I mean, it was a very cheap 5 gallons of wine to make, and knowing I might be locked up for a while, quarantined. I made several batches of cheap, inexpensive, what you go country wines, but the pine wine was especially important because pine is also antiviral. I figured I'd take some precautions against the virus. You, well, whether it's a tea or it is a wine, you don't want to take a lot of pine because it can irritate the kidneys. So I had about a cup of that a day, and it lasted for months, of course. At a cup a day, 5 gallons lasted quite a bit. Um, and I didn't get sick. I didn't have a virus the entire time I was sipping on that pine wine. And I am actually allergic to pine. You can probably hear my nose getting a little stuffy. That pine wine helped my allergies immensely. It's the same kind of concept as having a little local honey to help with your allergies. I was getting the pine in a form that my body got used to, and when this yellow pollen spread out a couple months later, and it's thick in the South, trust me. I mean, it looks like smoke, yellow smoke. It's so dense, or fog. I didn't have an allergy. Well, a little bit, but nowhere near as bad in most years. Oh, those are some uses for the needles. Now, let me move on. You can also use the inner bark the same way, and some of the sap can be used the same way. You would use the needles. Now, this is pine pitch. This is the sap that comes out of a wound in the tree and dries. This is crumbled into a very fine powder, or you can get it fresh, and it's sticky when it's fresh. This is very good for wounds. This is antiseptic, and it stops bleeding. It also promotes healing. A few months after I made that pine wine, I was getting a washing machine for my mother, and I had it on a dolly, and I was going downstairs. Well, actually, I was going upstairs with it. Somehow it overbalanced. The washer fell forward. The dolly kicked back and whacked me in the shin. I mean, enough to split my shin open and fracture the bone. Yeah, it was pretty unpleasant. And you could imagine I was pretty vocal about it. So, um, by the time I finally got the washing machine in, I mean, my clothes, there's just blood everywhere. and it would not stop bleeding. I mean, I kept, applying a compress to it. I kept doing everything I could think of to make it stop bleeding because, there's a lot of fluid in your lower extremities. This blood was very thin and it was not clotting. I waited really about 24 hours to see if it was going to stop bleeding on its own because I couldn't go out and get anything, and I didn't have anything in the house. A great home remedy for bleeding is actually cayenne pepper. Cayenne pepper will stop bleeding. Okay, that's first aid. Always have cayenne pepper around. I was out of cayenne pepper. I had crushed red pepper, but no, finely ground cayenne pepper, and so fine grinds that help with the clotting and the coagulation. I had no yarrow. I was out of yarrow. Yarrow's really good for stopping bleeding. The puffballs weren't in season. You can take a puffball and puff it, and those little spores will stop bleeding, much like cayenne pepper. I couldn't think of anything. And then I remembered pine pitch. So after 24 hours of my leg just continuing to bleed, it was slow bleeding. I wasn't bleeding to death or anything, but it just wouldn't stop. I took some of this pine pitch, I crumbled it up, put it on there, held it in place, and it stopped bleeding. I put a Band-Aid over that. My leg healed up. I don't even have a scar. Great stuff. Excellent first aid. Remember this when you're in the woods. If you see some, get it. I keep some in a little medicine bottle just like this. Crumble it up as needed. But, a lot of bad things can happen in the woods. You can get all kinds of cuts, and this can also save your life. Now let's talk about one component of pine that I discovered. I've never seen this in any book. Okay. I may be the person who discovered this. Maybe someone else knows about it. I'm sure someone found out before. These are the male pollen cones. Hmm. This is a purple one on the loblolly. They're small and green. They're not big enough to really see right now. These are edible. They don't have a lot of flavor, but again, this can save your life. This is full of vitamins, and can give you some calories if you were ran in the woods. What else could it do? Now, this is the herbal property. If you take this and just kind of peel off a little bit woody bit of the end, so you got the nice bright green part, put it between your lips and suck air around it. Just inhale deeply. Do that for about 10 minutes, 5 minutes. It will lower respiration. It lowers heart rate and blood pressure, and it dilates the lungs. This is actually a very pleasant thing. And if you're trying to quit smoking, and these are out, grab a bunch of them and put them in the fridge. Freeze them. They can freeze them. You can have them all year. You want to quit smoking? Take one of these. Or if you have a problem with blood pressure, or if you have a problem with rapid heart rate or asthma, once again, a pine tree can save your life. And this is actually very pleasant. This is incredibly relaxing. So that's your lesson for this week, y'all. I'll see you back here, Herbal Medicine 101, next week. You have a good one. And give me a little feedback if you want to. Ask me a question. I enjoy it.